my name is Issa Robson. I'm a farm vet. I've been graduated for 12 years according to my Facebook memories that popped up the other day. And ever since I graduated, I've been a farm-only vet, so I work mainly with cattle, dairy cows, beef cows, and sheep as well. Occasionally I might see the odd chicken or the odd pig, but mostly it's cattle and sheep. I'm not traditionally from a farming background, so I've actually, it's been something that I was exposed to whilst I was getting my work experience through vet school, and I really enjoyed working with farmers and stockmen, and I really like the lifestyle. So I think there's a definite split in some of the professions about who likes to be in an indoor environment and who likes to be outdoors. So a lot of my my day-to-day life is driving from one farm to another, and doing routine kind of herd health visits, fertility visits, and then also seeing individual sick animals as well. But I really enjoy the fact that I think probably on a very busy day, I might see kind of like 8 clients, but because they are my farmers, that I see them kind of continuously for many years, and you get to know their businesses and their animals and their families, and that's one of the reasons why I've always really enjoyed farm work, because you do become part of the farming, an essential component of the farming community. So
interesting. I'm just wondering, I came in after a few minutes, I know you have any technical issues. I wonder if you could just briefly introduce yourself, if you haven't already, and just tell us sort of where you're working at now, so we've got a bit of context as to how you came into it.
okay.
It'd just be great to get that insight.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit like Daniela, the BVA president. So I applied to vet school twice, and I didn't get in. I'm originally from Surrey. I didn't have a particularly supportive school environment, and I also had a lot of stuff going at home when I made my first applications. I decided that I still wanted to be a vet, and I applied at York University, and then after I'd taken a couple of gap years to try and earn enough money so I could go to vet school, I applied to vet school and was successful. And now, spent kind of like nearly a decade kind of like working in and around farm work, and currently I am a farm, what's called a veterinary clinical teaching fellow at Surrey Vet School, and I've always enjoyed teaching students, and I've always enjoyed encouraging students, and I think I've found a really good fit for me to pass on kind of clinical expertise in farm, and to hopefully pass on a joy for farm work.
That's great, thank you. So what would you say a typical day in the life of Issa looks like then, with your sort of current role and with your background, so you're teaching and that sort of thing? But it'd be great to get an idea for those people that might be interested in aspiring for a similar type of career in the future, as to what a normal day looks like for you.
So before I started working at the university, a normal clinical day for a farm vet would be to arrive in at the office, have a cup of tea, because that's always very important, and find out what emergency calls have come in first thing in the morning, So often it's a sick cow or a poorly calf, or need to examine a post-mortem a sheep because there's been some unexpected deaths on farm, and you would probably have 2 or 3 visits to do first thing in the morning, and then obviously very important again, get cups of tea. But I think one of the best things about being a farm vet is that we often do get fed and teed very well by our clients, so that's nice. Always train your clients to bring you a cup of tea. We might get emergency calls, so things like cows that need calving, and cows that aren't able to calve, so we might end up having to do a cesarean section. Those are always really fun visits to do. I think with farm we don't tend to have as much paperwork as our small animal clients, and we don't tend to have very intensive kind of schedules in comparison. So there's a lot of there's a very big social aspect to being a vet, as all of the vets today have said. But yeah, it's very important to build really strong, like trusting relationships with your farmers. So yeah, it's frowned upon if you refuse a cup of tea.
Imagine, that's really interesting. I suppose coming from a medical student's perspective is how the relationship is sort of, you've got quite a few people involved in that relationship, not just the patient, as it were. So that's really, really quite interesting. It might sound like a silly question, but do you find that the animals recognise you?
So yeah, so there will be, particularly if you've been to a farm for many years, there's some favourite cows that I have had over the years. There's been a cow called Angie, who was a very nice dairy cow that wouldn't go anywhere until you gave her a good scratch, and then after that, then she would do what you wanted. But yeah, farm dogs in particular, there are some farm dogs that you find them if you leave your car boot open or your doors open, they end up in the car, covering the inside of your car in mud. But yeah, like I particularly enjoy yeah, the farm dogs when you're invited in, which ones stop barking at you very quickly and come and sit on your lap because they learn that you give them food, so you can buy your way.
That's really thank you for sharing that with us. So I think Rosanne can hear now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I've joined the session now. Sorry about that.
Oh, as if by magic. Welcome. So great to have you both here. I'm going to hand over to Daisy in just a moment, but basically we're just really, really quite honoured and privileged to have you both here, sharing a little bit about your experience and insights into what veterinary medicine is all about, and you know, your experiences and advice for aspiring and also obviously current veterinary students. So I'll sort of let you have a little bit of a go now at sharing some of your experiences, etc. Rosanne, if that's okay, and we'll take it from there.
Hi, so my name's Rosie. I think I had a slightly more straightforward route into vet school, but not a very straightforward route out of vet school. So I went to a normal secondary school and on to the sixth form attached to that school, and from there went straight into vet school at 18. I studied biology, chemistry, English literature and maths at A level. I enjoyed my English. I'm not really inherently a scientist. I just did it to get to the animals. And then after vet school, I worked in mixed practice for 3 years. So that's with all species. So cats and dogs, cows and sheep and horses. And then after 3 years, I started to work just with horses, and I've done extra training. So I've done what's called an internship, so a year-long program working with specialists, so surgeons and medicine specialists in horses. And then I've since done a residency, so 3 years training in internal medicine. And I've just recently joined a hospital. You can see me sat in the office, and that's what I do.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So it's interesting to get those two different varying perspectives on entry there. And would you say that your day-to-day experience is similar to that of Issa's in terms of your day-to-day job then, Rosie? Sorry, I keep calling you Rosanne before Rosie.
Yeah, so I just love being a vet, and I've loved all of my jobs. I like the people that own the animals. I like meeting new people, but basically I'm guilty of being one of the people that just likes animals and likes working with them. But more recently, as I've specialised in internal medicine, I do really enjoy the puzzle as well. So having not desperately enjoyed science at school, sort of a means to an end, although I did enjoy maths, I'm a bit of a weirdo. I do enjoy the puzzle of a difficult case. So when there's a horse, they can't tell us what's wrong with them, and they're just a bit quiet and just a bit unwell, and sometimes they can be really quite sick, especially prey animals. So horses fall in that category. They can look quite well and be really quite sick, and we have to use lots of tools like ultrasound, and keyhole cameras, endoscopes to figure out what's wrong with them, and I really enjoy that sort of puzzle. So my day-to-day really varies according to which job you're asking me about. So when I'm working on the road as an equine vet, what we call an ambulatory equine vet, so driving around seeing horses, often we'll get our diaries emailed to us the evening before, and we'll drive straight from home to the first call and go on to each call. It can be fairly hectic. Don't really get a lunch hour, and you learn to spot toilets where you can take them, but it's really good fun. Whereas what I've done more the last 3 to 5 years is working in a hospital or clinic, and that's really great from a team point of view. You have nurses, admin staff, sort of grooms and yard staff, and lots of other vets to bounce ideas off, and that's really enjoyable because you just never stop learning in this job, but particularly in that environment, you learn a totally new perspective most weeks, if not most days, and that's really fun.
Thank you so much for that. And I've sort of hijacked a little bit with those questions, but I think it's really useful to get that insight. But I am going to hand you over to Daisy, and she will go ahead with the programme as you're expecting to deliver it, if that's okay. I believe that you've got some slides that you guys are going to be sharing with us. Again, apologies for sort of going off on a tangent there, but I thought it would be quite interesting to get that perspective, and it's quite valuable as much as anything else. So,
thanks, Ben. So did you say you had one slide that you were going to share? Was that your plan? Oh, I can't hear you now. I can't hear you.
I think I might have lost my sound again.
I can, sorry, who was it just speaking then?
it's almost like the platform wants me to be present. Because can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. So yeah, was there a slide that you wanted to share with us? Oh, we've lost Issa now. Ah, okay, so as we can see there, this has posted very kindly a link for mentoring, and that is that veterinary. I wonder if you can expand out on that one for me. It's oh, the sound's completely gone. I can't believe it. We were doing so well for so long. Rosie, can you hear?
I can hear you, Ben, so I don't know.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I had pressed the mute button, which doesn't help, does it?
Oh.
So one of the other hats that I have is I'm a co-founder of the British Diversity Society. So one of the things that we do is we try and encourage people from diverse backgrounds into veterinary medicine. And one of the ways that we do that currently is we have a mentoring program, so that if people, particularly from state schools, who are not being supported in their applications to vet school, we are kind of like that friendly support, just to help with encouraging you to apply. It was definitely something that I really needed when I was a pupil. And would be really pleased if anybody who's listening today wanted to get in touch. And you can have a look at the links that we have on the BVEDS website. So the link is in the chat. So it's www.bveds.com. We have a section for prospective students, and it just signposts you to all of the key areas that you need to find out about how you make your application to vet school. I think I'm just going to reiterate something that Daniela had said in hers, is that there are other ways to become a vet other than going straight from school. And in fact, I think you probably end up being like, if you take a little bit of time, you end up being a good vet for the life experience. So I don't know how Rosie feels about that.
Great, thank you. And I think Rosie, can you hear us? Are we still got sound working there? Have you muted yourself by any chance?
I muted myself. Sorry.
There we go. I wonder if that was what was going on all along.
So yeah, I went to state school, and I think I was lucky to get into vet school. I didn't have good support from the school, and I had quite an unpleasant experience at the first interview that I went to, and I was very unprepared for. But luckily, the vet school that I wanted to go to was my second interview, and I was better prepared for that one. But that was a bit of a lucky escape. But as Issa said, I think the more mature you are, the more life experience you have, the more you make of vet school. And certainly, when I was more recently back in university and teaching, we had people that had 2 or 3 children, or done worked in computing for 20 years. People have all sorts of backgrounds coming into veterinary, and I think everyone brings so much. And it's not a race. It's a long old career, and lots of people do lots of careers through their lives nowadays. And I think doing that either via the difficult and hard way there, or after doing something else entirely, all of it serves to make you a more rounded person.
Thanks.
And I think there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of myths a little bit about how much work experience you need, particularly now with COVID-19, to get work experience have reduced their the number of weeks they would like you to have. The clinical practice is that you're applying the job that you're applying to do, but for farm and equine, I think they understandably, lots of people won't be able to get that work experience before they make an application. But there are ways that you can do that, even if you live in a city. So yeah, so if people are struggling to get farm work experience, then again, please get in touch with BVEDS.
The work experience, it's the grades on the website don't always reflect what they take. So I kind of wanted to say that both for getting into vet school and for jobs and things in the future. If you want a job or you want a position on a course or you want something and you don't meet the requirements, it's still worth applying. All you lose is some face and some ego and some tears, but if you don't apply, you definitely won't get it.
Yeah. There's one way you can guarantee that you won't get into vet school, and that's by not applying. So don't let that be the hurdle. Don't let yourself be the reason that you don't get in. It always has it, you know, if you make an application and somebody says no, then you have to work out another way, or what it is that you need to improve for the next time. And there's lots of good gateway programs for those students who are from widening participation backgrounds. There are lots of universities who are offering contextual, which means they look at you in context of your the background that you've been trying to do your A levels or your AS levels, and they may make a different offer to you versus somebody else. Other things to consider is the UK isn't the only place that you can study to be a vet. There are lots of good vet schools in Europe who are teaching in English and are potentially a lot cheaper than studying in the UK. So yeah, keep your mind open to where your vet degree or where you want to do your vet degree and where your vet degree can take you in the world.
And it's probably a smaller point that when you're looking at vet school, if you have thoughts that you would want to work either in the UK or in America, for UK, then you want one that's kind of associated with the RCVS, so you don't have to sit additional exams. For America, you want one that's AVMA accredited, but just sort of think about where you might want to go and check those requirements. But again, it's surmountable, it's just exams, but those exams are easier sat around the time of vet school when you still remember everything.
I've got a question. Why did you want to be a vet rather than another healthcare professional?
So I was actually a young carer, and actually I found I found the whole healthcare system actually like quite stressful. And actually I did want to play with kittens and puppies and horses and cows as a bit of light relief from my caring responsibilities. I think being a young carer, my mum was a nurse. I definitely think that I took from her a lot of the kind of like the medical practicalities and the very down to earthness and the fascination with disease and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, veterinary was, I think, a less stressful way to practice medicine.
For me, although you absolutely don't need to ride or be into horses to be a horse vet, there's lots of people that have no interest in horses until the final year of vet school or even later. I did grow up really liking horses and hanging out wearing riding schools and scrounging rides off anyone that would let me sit on their horse. So I predominantly went into vet school aiming to be a horse vet. And the very first time I did work experience in year 10 on my official kind of school work experience, I went to a mixed practice, went out to a farm and fell in love with farm. So I think you change your mind through vet school as to where you're going with it. Doing it as a kind of being in the car as a student and then being on your rotations and learning the knowledge about a certain species and doing it after vet school are three entirely different experiences, and I think it's hard to predict what you'll enjoy. But I didn't really consider other healthcare professions. I was always going to work with animals, And if I'd lived more rurally or owned horses from younger, maybe I'd have been a rider or a farm worker. But here I am.
And well, I think the other thing is that you'll have sessions on you know, dentistry, physiotherapy, surgery, orthopedic surgery, yeah, internal medicine, and vets do all of that. That's just our normal, you know, we do epidemiology, we do herd health, like we're able to do all of those things. So all of the kind of, yeah, all of the things that you can do as another healthcare professional, you can also do as a vet. And that, I guess, that's just us being greedy. That you know, like as a kid, I really enjoyed science. I really enjoyed animals. I loved applied science. And vet is probably, I think, farm vet and maybe equine vet as well, is that we're like yeah, we get to do all of that vetting, but because we're out in the field, we have to do it with very minimal kit, and we have to be really practical, and that's something that I always found really exciting. It's like you've got a rope, a surgical kit, some box full of drugs, and you'll just have to cope with the situation as it is, and that's very exciting.
This is asked what the most fun part of being a horse and farm vet, and linking back to what Issa said, I think it's the way we can use baler twine and blue rope to fix most situations. And although I love equine medicine, my first love will always be carving cows. There's nothing quite like pulling a tightly squished, tangled up calf out of a cow.
Yeah, I think when I was a student lambing, I always enjoyed like bringing new life into the world, and I always thought, oh well, you know, when I'm an old experienced vet, I won't find that as exciting, but I still do. It's still very, very pleasing when you've had a really difficult lambing or calving and you get a live calf or lamb out. So yeah, so that's always nice. Yeah, what's the best bit? There's quite a lot of fun bits. You do have to, as a farm vet, you do have to be used to getting dirty. But I love the bath at the end of a hard day, and sitting in the bath and getting clean.
Is there anything that you know now that you wish you'd known when you were younger and starting out as a vet?
I wish that I wish that I'd had a supportive adult to help me with my application the first time. So I didn't have that much encouragement from either my family or my teachers. So my teachers told me that I was too stupid. And my family were like, oh, well, this is a nice dream, but it's not really very realistic. And I think that was a shame, not having a person to say, no, actually, you know, these are the grades that you need. You've got the work experience. You just, you know, this is what you're going to have to do to get into vet school. And I think that would have really been helpful, which is one reason why BVEDS offers the mentoring. But yeah, I think don't listen. You have to find out yourself whether or not you can get into vet school, and not to listen to anybody else.
I agree. I think sometimes being a vet is turned into this mystical thing so that people don't apply to vet school or don't take the most direct route they could because it's intimidating. And then in vet school, everyone feels that they're not clever enough, and actually it's just you're surrounded by a load of clever, hardworking people, and you're not going to be top of the class, but you don't need to be top of the class. You just need to learn and pass and enjoy it. And then I think the same thing, when you look out the other side, you worry about making mistakes or having the owner of an animal complain about you or not want to see you because you're too young or whatever. And none of that matters. We're human, of course we make mistakes, but it doesn't mean that you don't perform better.
Yeah, you don't have to be perfect to be a vet. You have to be hardworking and dedicated. I agree with that. But also, I think being able to learn from mistakes like quickly. And you know what, the fastest way to work out whether you can do something is to have a go at it. And if you get it wrong, work out what you did wrong and then do it again better. And that, I think that's really important, not to be frightened of failing. Because that will hold you back more than anything else.
Don't be frightened of succeeding either.
Oh yeah, exactly.
What would be your one pearl of wisdom for vet school and admissions?
Sorry, Rosie, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I would research the individual vet school. So each vet school, or at least Nottingham and Surrey, have a different teaching model to the more traditional vet schools, and every city has its own flavour, and also each vet school has areas that they have strengths in, whether that's something like infectious diseases or whether that's a particular species where their referral hospital is particularly strong. So look at the course very carefully to choose which one will suit you the best, and then tell an interview that that's why you want to go to that one, not just into vet school generic.
Yeah, and Mandisa has just put a question about what help does BVEDS mentoring scheme do? So the first place that we always signpost every prospective student to is the Vet Schools Council's kind of application requirements to vet schools. So every year they get updated, and that is the place that you go to find out what is it the entry requirements are for the Royal Veterinary College, for Bristol, for Surrey. And particularly it's very good for spelling out what the widening participation schemes those universities do, and that will give you a baseline in terms of like what grade requirements are they looking for, because what we do hear a lot of like schools discouraging students that have actually got the grade requirements, saying no, you shouldn't make an application, it's too competitive. But if you've got the grade requirements, or you're predicted the grade requirements that are in the Vet Schools Council's guide, then please make your application. And then the next thing that we do is that we make sure that you've got support when you're writing your UCAS statement. So what we find is that the students that are contacting us actually have amazing amount of experience, and that they're just very shy about talking about it, and just having somebody to kind of like go, okay, tell me more about this particular aspect of the experience that you've got, or why you would like to be a vet, and so we can help with drafting for UCAS statements, and then if you're able to get an interview, then we will help with interview techniques. So usually it just involves a phone call, or in this case probably a Zoom meeting these days, just to kind of get you comfortable with the fact that you're going to be put out of your comfort zone. And I think nobody who's going in at undergraduate has ever had a really like super nice interview. It's they always like to push you, stress you a little bit, and push you out of your comfort zone. So we're very good at just calming your nerves. So often we've had people calling after their interview saying, oh my god, it was terrible, and lo and behold they get offered a place, because they don't tend to be really nice to you if they want to see what you're made of. So they might so sometimes the interviews can be a bit stressful.
I've just put the link to the Vet School Council in the chat.
Thank you. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to ask. Is there anything more that you wanted to add?
Just apply. Yeah, don't yeah, it's really hard, because I think a lot of the time you take your counsel from you used to be taking your counsel from your parents and your family and your school, but this is, you know, particularly with state schools, this is one area that they often don't have a lot of experience with, and you're better off getting advice from somebody who's in the profession, who's gone through an application before. So yeah, so this is something that we would like to change, but yeah, like if in the meantime, get as much experience as you can, and I know that's really difficult with COVID, but there's lots of online things that you could be doing. So yeah, that's another option for you. There's lots of kind of like free courses that you can take online and that kind of thing. I think some of the vet schools are offering like a virtual work experience, so check them out too.
Yeah, that was something that I was going to ask. Do you have any advice for seeking work experience? Obviously, COVID makes it difficult, but some people might be applying further in the future.
So again, don't, you know, you'll apply to things and people won't get back to you. Phone, visit, harass them for a placement, because, you know, like if you're wanting to go for a week or 2 weeks at a cattery or something like that, just be very persistent. There are other experiences that are just as valuable. So if you're a particularly shy person, then actually just doing any job that means that you're customer facing is really good, because they will be, you know, your interview, you need to have good people skills. You need to not be too shy to speak to people. It doesn't matter what you know in your head if you're too shy to speak about yourself. So yeah, so even working in coffee shops or volunteering or anything like that is really important, just as long as you are speaking to people and meeting members of the public and getting comfortable with that.
It's also funny where you can get your contacts. So one of my best work experiences, I did a couple of weeks at a mixed organic farm, and it was actually like a farmer's market. We looked at the label on the food, and I used to get a train, 2 trains to her, and come home thinking of pigs and chickens, and everyone sitting very far away from me who'd been into Leeds shopping. But I used to work for her every Saturday for like the next year, and it really gave me confidence, because it wasn't an intimidating large farm. It was somewhere smaller, friendlier, with a cheese and great experience.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Rosie. I worked at Riding for the Disabled, which was a really great way to they gave you a half an hour ride in the morning, so I learnt to ride there, but I also got to work with disabled children and adults, and I think that was a really valuable experience for me, and certainly my customer service is much better because of that. The wildlife sanctuaries, that was another thing that I did have access to in kind of a more of an urban environment. And city farms are brilliant. They are a really good way for you to get exposed to lots of different farm species, and usually they are very keen for young people to kind of to help out and to kind of show another generation of kids how to handle animals and all of that kind of stuff. So they're very good ways, even if you're not from a rural background.
But just don't underestimate sideways skills. So I think kind of being caring like Issa did, or speaking another language, or being able to use sign language, or being comfortable around different humans just helps you, because it's always about the person that comes with the animal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Does anyone have any more questions? Thank you so much, both of you, for taking this time out of your day to come and talk with us.
Very welcome. Well, I hope to be back next year and we can do this in person.
Yes, definitely.
It might be a bit easier.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about where you had gone with your vet degree, Issa, or did I miss that when I was AWOL with the
yeah, is there time? How much time do we have?
Got time. Go for it.
Okay, so I mean, I think that people sometimes think they think of James Herriot, right? So they think that that's where you end up. The peak of your career is going to be romping around the countryside, and then like treating people's tricksy poos, and then like going out to carve a cow. And actually think bigger than that. Like your vet degree can take you everywhere in the world, and on the way to becoming a vet, and the way, and my way now, it's taken me all over the world. So before I got into vet school, I ended up working with elephants in Thailand, helping them develop a way to check when the elephants were at their most reproductive, and that was an amazing experience. I've studied at Thai vet schools, which was just brilliant. And most recently, last year, I went out to Vietnam to do some teaching in dairy reproduction. And I have always been fascinated with farming in all over the world. And it's so amazing to meet vets from all over the world, because that common bond of you being a vet is such an amazing ticket to see another country. And just it's been wonderful, kind of like meeting students, meeting lecturers, and everyone is so hospitable. I definitely think that you shouldn't just have your sights set on the UK. As a vet, you should think about conquering the world as well. So
There's a question from Laya. What did you enjoy most about Vet University?
friends, I think. I don't know, Rosie, do you have
I love
lifelong
rotation.
friends?
So I do have really close friends from vet school, but I didn't love the veterinary bubble. So my closest friends now have specialised in equine, like me. We're a very boring bunch. We're in a very small niche together, and that's so I probably always had that experience later in life of having a really close team of people working in the same direction. Where at vet school, I love rotations. It's just an opportunity to just soak up. And even though I knew I didn't want to spend the rest of my life working with small animals, I still love being in a small animal hospital. You're in a group of 4, 5, 6 of you. You get to do more procedures for the first time. You are being quizzed and tested, and you're realizing how much knowledge is in your brain. And instead of it being in lists as you read it, it's all sticking together into a big mind map inside of your head. And it was a really nice feeling as that knowledge integrated.
Yeah, I don't think I enjoyed so much the kind of like the amount of information that I had to try and force into my head. I really enjoyed the practical side of it. I'm dyslexic, so I have a very low reading speed, and my note taking is terrible. But I do genuinely enjoy learning, and there's so much to learn as a vet, and there's so much to learn after you've graduated. So I'm now back teaching final year students at Surrey, and there's stuff that has changed so much since I was at university that I'm actually really enjoying learning the new stuff with the students as well. And that is a very stimulating place to be, where you're constantly learning how to do things better. And perpetual student. I mean, what can I say? I was a student for at least 7 years, so I really enjoy learning.
Does anyone have any more questions? Well, thank you both for coming. We don't have that much time left anyway. It was really interesting to hear about all of your careers, and I hope everyone's been inspired.
Well, yeah, we hope to come back next year, and if anybody's needing to get in touch, then yeah, get in touch through the BVEDS website. But yeah, we're quite happy to help everybody out who's wanting to come to vet school.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Shall I share my slide for a few seconds?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do the contacts on.
See if the technology works.
Is that working?
No, I can't see anything right now.
Got it now.
Oh yeah, I can see that now.
Perfect.
There we go. Yeah, we're on Twitter as well, so you can find us at BVEDS 2016. So, right.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you
to meet
for having
you.
us.